Okay, folks, let me say welcome. I'm certainly a different Monica, aren't I? All right. I haven't seen Monica wearing a pair of shorts, and you haven't seen me wearing a skirt, so. Okay, let's say welcome to all of you. Are there any new faces here? Any first timers? Yes, there are a couple of first timers. Welcome. I hope somebody's at least come up and spoken to you. Those new people are down the back there. Oh, you've been in the group. Welcome. I'm going to ask, are there any more apologies for the benefit of Adrian? There's a list of apologies here. The apologies that we've got.
And I'll give him where that is.
Where's Adrian? Do you give him that one? Hey, what? That's a mic there?
Yep.
You can hear me?
That's just for YouTube, but continue using
All right, continue using this one. Okay, so obviously Monica is an apology. As I said in the intermediate group, she's now over in South Africa, happily celebrating her father's birthday, either his 92nd or his 96th birthday, something like that. Trish is stranded up in Queensland with our friend Alfred. She went up there to do a good Samaritan deed last Sunday or Monday, and she was due to fly out on Saturday, but the weather has other ideas, doesn't it, John? So we got Trish away, Anna's away, Aphrodite, Barbara's away, and I got another email from a Chris, and I don't know whether the surname was King, but let me say, King popped up in the email address, so I would assume it might be Chris King. So with all those apologies, let me just tell you, you got the B team tonight. All right, point taken. Thank you, John. And so I'm going to say thank you to Sandra, Simon, Gareyev, Amanda, Gordon for helping setting up too, and Adrian. And to all you people, I'm going to say thank you for coming on a public holiday. What an effort. So we're here tonight. We've got with us our two VDOs, our Varroa officers, detection officers. So we'll give them an opportunity. They're going to put in a plug for a workshop that's coming up at the end of this week, possibly. So, where are we up to? We've had our welcome and our apologies, and tonight we're going to have the presentation of our constitution. As you're aware, there is a subcommittee that has been working on the revamping of the constitution and consists of 4 of us, myself 1, Amanda, and I should really number Amanda as number 1, Adrian number 2, and Grantley number 3, Susan number 4, and me number 5. Okay, so I can assure you the subcommittee's been working hard, and it's our intention to give you an overview tonight, and Adrian's going to make a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, which will take about 25 minutes. And while I'm talking, I would like Adrian to come up the front and get himself ready. And Amanda. So yes, our constitution has been rewritten, so now you're going to get a presentation of it tonight, and the mechanics of what happens tonight. When you go home, on your email, you will have the presentation there waiting for you. And we're going to give you a month to read it. And during that period of the month, what we're asking for is for you to read, mark, learn, inwardly digest it, and give us some feedback. So there we go. I hand over to you, Amanda.
Yes. Hi everyone, I'm Amanda. I'm the project lead for the Constitution Subcommittee. I have a wonderful team of Adrian, Grant and Bob who work really hard and meticulously to review the launch of the draft Constitution tonight, and also the launch of the review group, which Adrian will talk more about. In developing the proposed constitution, we've taken care to make sure that it meets legal requirements, operational requirements, and it reflects the current practices of the society, especially regarding evolving practices such as use of technology. Did you not hear any of that? Anyway, without further ado, I'll hand over to Adrian, and everyone's going to have a little bit to say tonight.
Okay. So then the presentation.
Yeah, maybe stand up and say.
Yep.
Or else you get feedback.
Right. Okay.
That's what I want, my glasses.
Testing. Yep. That's good. You'll be following my presentation.
Yeah. No, it's the constitution. Yeah, that one.
Okay. So I think I've got a tough gig because you all came here about bee business, and I'm going to talk to you about an updated constitution. And yep. Okay. Thank you. So I've got a presentation to basically go through why we updated the constitution, some of the major changes. And technology issues. And as Bob said, after tonight you'll be sent the updated constitution, the old one, and sort of the list of changes. And we're looking to have the society vote on adopting the updated constitution. First of all, so the Amanda, Grant, Bob, and myself have been working on we called the project Refresh to refresh the constitution. Why are we looking to change the constitution? Essentially to better reflect what the members' needs are, to comply with changes to the Incorporated Associations Act that's been updated. So our current constitution is not in compliance with some requirements of that act. We have a bunch of, the society has a set of documents, a standing orders, and a handbook that don't actually represent current practice. So separately to updating the constitution, we're looking to update, merge those two into some new bylaws, but this presentation tonight is really just about the updated constitution. And also as part of updating the constitution, we're moving into the modern age and allowing things like technology allows us to have meetings remotely, have people participate, allow voting remotely if people can't attend these meetings remotely as opposed to physically, but still to allow them to vote on resolutions. And some other changes on dispute resolutions and to clarify some administrative obligations. So those are really the reasons. One, main reason, to better reflect what we think the membership wants, and two, to comply with the Act. Next slide, please. So we started in October 2024 last year. We called for comments on the existing constitution. I think we received 11 sets of comments, or 10. And we drafted a new constitution, which are now being called the rules rather than the constitution, to align with the Act, based on the feedback we got at the analysis of the Act and essentially the knowledge of the people working on the constitution. We are going to publish and advertise that tonight, and there's a review period that lasts for about a month. And as I said, we're looking to vote on this new constitution in July. Next slide, please. Sorry, are there any questions before I move on to the next slide? Yep.
I've heard, because I'm in another association.
Sorry, just so that, do you want to use this mic, or has somebody got a mic to give him?
Thanks very much. I'm associated with another club that's having to go through the same thing. It's just that there's slight conflict in what they're going through. They're having to get rid of rules and take on bylaws, which seem to fit under the Act. So I'm not sure, I'm hearing you talk about rules. So there must be some way it's working for you.
Oh, I think Amanda wants to address that one.
Okay, so the definition in the Act, the Constitution and rules mean the same. You're talking bylaws. Yeah, so we've at the moment got a handbook of rules. It's called Rules and Standing Orders. Rules is a bit confusing because whoever wrote it didn't know that means the same as Act. So that will change when we're going to call our new handbook bylaws. And the bylaws sit outside the Constitution, and they're the day-to-day governance, how you do things on day-to-day, the bylaws, whereas the Act is the legislative side.
Okay, thanks. All right. So moving forward, the new rules, the new constitution will be emailed to all members tonight. We've got that review period until the 14th. Under the existing constitution, in order to change the constitution, we need to have a vote, and 3/4 of the membership present need to agree to change that constitution. So it's not just a simple majority, it's a 3/4 majority required. And I've got a series of slides now where I'm just going to talk through the major changes between the existing constitution and the new constitution and the rules and the reasons for those changes. Next slide. The first one hopefully won't be too contentious. We're removing an apostrophe from the name of the society. So the grammar purists out there may have a view, but we're calling it the Beekeepers Society of South Australia, removing the possessive apostrophe at the end. And we're also on the new constitution calling it, we're changing the logo from the logo on the left to the logo on the right, because I think there's a change of logo. If anyone wants to talk about a change of logo, I'm not the person to talk to. That was, I think, decided separately. Next slide. So this is probably, I think, if you're going to spend time reading about the new constitution, then probably this is an area where you do want to have a look, because these are, why does the society exist? On the left-hand side, it says promote the science of beekeeping, improve the standard of beekeeping amongst beekeepers, contribute to the study of knowledge of apiculture, and so on. And at the bottom of that list, what we've proposed is a new set of objects for the society to provide more focus on recreational and micro beekeeper and to represent their interest. So our first object is to represent the interests of South Australian recreational and micro beekeeper sector in industry and government forums. That's our first change. The second object is to promote legislative compliance and industry best practice and support members to conduct their beekeeping activities in a socially responsible and sustainable manner. So I won't go through all of these now. The ones on the left are the existing constitution. The ones on the right are the proposed new rules constitution. Don't forget, we've got a 30-day membership review period. If you object to these or propose changes, please send in your comments. Obviously, if we get a lot of feedback from people saying they want to change these objects, then we're going to have to perhaps revisit our timeline. But again, the purpose that we've made proposed these changes is to better represent the members' interests and also to be, I guess, engaging with the community. Next slide, please. In terms of, from a membership perspective, the Constitution requires people now to comply with the Constitution. If you're a member, then you're going to comply with the Constitution and the rules in there. Previously, that wasn't an obligation, as far as I recall. We've retained the individual, family and life memberships, but we have removed junior and honorary memberships because there's no juniors anymore and we no longer don't think we have any honorary members. Sorry?
They come under the family.
Yes, and Bob's saying that if we've got people under the age of 18, they can be a member of the society under family. Annual fees, the current constitution says they have to be payable by July. Annual fees is really, it's a 12-year anniversary from when you first join, so it just makes things easier. And we've just renamed the annual fees to subscription because that's the term the Act uses for things like annual fees. Membership ceases if subscriptions are not paid when they're due, and the reason we've put that is because technology reminds you, hey, you've got 30 days to renew your membership. Grace periods and things like that, we thought about them, but we decided not to have them because it makes things very complicated if somebody's a non-financial member and still wants to vote during a grace period, etc. It was just simpler and cleaner. You get a reminder 30 days beforehand, you've got 30 days to pay your membership. Of course, if you don't pay and you then suddenly find yourself non-financial, then you can join up and you're immediately a member again. And the final point there is members have to declare a conflict of interest. So if you're asked to vote on something and you've got a conflict of interest, maybe it's you're selling services to the society and the membership's voting about whether or not they should buy your services, then that's a conflict of interest and you should declare that and abstain from voting. And that's the new clause there under 771. So that's a new obligation. Next slide, please. Probably won't impact most people, but if you're a committee member, there's explicit obligations added to comply with the Act, not strictly necessary because you always have to comply with legislation, to appoint a public officer. The second bullet point about nomination, so we've changed the Constitution so that if you want to be a committee member, you have to declare that nomination 14 days in advance of the annual general meeting. And that provides a degree of transparency so that people are aware that you have put your hand up to be a person on the committee. We will still allow that if there's no nominations received for a position, that we can accept nominations on the night. But what we're trying to do is trying to get people to say, yes, I want to be a committee member, and so that can be public knowledge 14 days ahead of the annual general meeting. We've added an election procedure because the Act requires it. We've added some disqualification provisions. So we're saying that if you're a committee member, you can't be a committee member if the Act disqualifies you, like if you commit fraud or something like that. If you cease to be a member of the society, so if your subscription lapses and you're a committee member, you also stop being a committee member. So there's one sting in that tail. And just because you then pay your membership fees again, doesn't mean you automatically reclaim your committee membership position because you'd cease to be a member. If you're permanently incapacitated by ill health, or if you don't turn up to meetings and without giving a good reason, if you walk away from your obligations. And the final change is we've removed honorariums. Previously, the Constitution allowed for, several $100s to be paid to committee members to reimburse them for petrol and travel and all that sort of stuff, and we don't think that's appropriate anymore, so honorariums are gone. Next slide. In terms of meetings, with the frequency of general meetings and committee meetings have been updated. The AGM has to be held within 5 months of the end of the financial year, so we've defined a financial year that ends 30th of June. And that provides some degree of flexibility and is also consistent with the Act. It allows the AGM to be scheduled sometime after the end of the financial year. The quorum for the general meetings used to be the minimum smaller of 20% of the membership or 20 members. The society has grown, so we've changed that to the minimum of 20% of the members or 40 members in order to have a quorum. So because we've got bigger, we've said we need to have more people to have a quorum to decide things. Remote voting. So, you know, we went through COVID. We could have another COVID. Who knows what the world is going to, what's going to happen. We might get people who don't live in Adelaide who still want to participate in these meetings and be members of the society. So we've allowed in the Constitution that people participating by technology, so, you know, Zoom, Skype, Teams, they will be allowed to vote. If they're members of the society and they're entitled to vote, doesn't necessarily they have to be in this room in order to vote. They can be in Port Lincoln or Robe, or Mount Gambier or so on, and still vote. That applies to ordinary resolutions. There's special resolutions. There's two types of special resolutions that I can think of. One is to change the Constitution, and we're going to hopefully have a special resolution in July to do that. And the other type of special resolution is to wind up the society. You know, if we've decided as a group that we don't want to be a beekeeping society anymore, that's a special resolution. And that requires people to be physically present or their proxy to be physically present. Also, the committee can transact business without physically getting together. So there's some provisions in there for allowing the committee members to discuss, agree something, record that agreement, but they don't physically have to be in the same room in order to do that. And that's just really just to keep up with, you know, technology's allowed that to happen. You can all sit on a Skype meeting or a Zoom meeting and have a discussion. There are other obligations in there to keep minutes and records and chair meetings and send out notices and that sort of stuff. That's all just compliance with the Act. So, and there's some of the new clauses, proposed new clauses on the right. Next slide. Before I go on, any questions so far? Any burning issues? Yeah.
Just getting back.
Sorry, I'm just going to hand you the mic so I can.
Along the lines of the technology, noting that we've gone from Wild Apricot to some other platform, now that we've gone annual subscriptions on the anniversary, that's inbuilt into this new system?
Does anybody who knows anything about the new system, can they answer that question, Simon?
Yes, it can just continue the same. So even now in Wild Apricot, if your subscription is on the 3rd of September every year, it just comes due then, and the new one can handle that as well. So it's just rolling subscription dates.
Lovely, thank you.
Okay. Finances. So this is important. This is the money. Oh, sorry, one more question.
So having participated in a lot of blended meetings with people in a room and not in a room, I'm curious about how you're going to carry a ballot. So, and I think maybe it needs to be written up somewhere.
That'll be the polling features on the platform that they're using. We've checked with the IT people and it will work. And we've also got a proviso that remote meetings will only be held, may be held, so if we think our technology is not up to par, it won't happen.
Sure, I have a supplementary question.
So carrying a motion and voting on it's not terribly easy when you've got people online. So I'm interested in actually knowing that the people online will be treated the same as the people in the room. It's really important that you have a structure in place such that it doesn't get lost.
Yep. Thanks. Could I do that? Yep. Look, I think you got a valid point in terms of making sure, I've been in Skype meetings where there's 200 people on Skype, and making sure that everybody actually has the opportunity to vote is really important, especially if you've then got another 100 people in a room, etc. I don't know whether or not the technology can handle it. What we're doing is we're saying the Constitution allows the provision of, I believe, subject to the management committee agreeing that the technology can handle it, allowing people to participate remotely in these meetings and vote. Now, I think if we don't think the technology's up to it, then probably we won't. But if we have to go through another COVID, or we have people in regional South Australia wanting to be members of the society and participate in the society, then I think in the last couple of years we've started recording and putting on Facebook. We're now talking about going live streaming, and I think the technology is catching up to enable us to do that. But I think you've got a valid point. How do you make sure that everybody who's actually participating remotely has an equal vote, that everybody's in the room? I don't know the answer to that. The Constitution is making provision to allow that to happen. So money, so the financial year ends on the 30th of June. There's clauses added to keep accounts, which weren't specifically or were only briefly covered. They've been enhanced because of obligations of the Act. So the annual review of account, because the society is that the sums of money we go through every year aren't so great that the Act requires a full audit. We only need to do a review of accounts, not a complete audit. So that's a change to the Constitution. We're moving payments to online only because it improves record keeping and governance. If you get large sums of cash, where did they come from, etc. That becomes harder to keep track of, so we're moving a lot of payments to online only, and we're requiring an annual budget in the Constitution. Yep.
By excluding cash, how is that going to affect your activity days, such as Sophie's Patch, etc., so coming to the public?
Anybody want to take all of that?
It won't affect those sort of sales. We do have a situation where I get paid cash sometimes at a field day, and then I have got the onus is on the ASAP to deposit that money. And so the same applies to Sophie's Patch or any store like that. There will be a stripe, square, for people with credit card who want to swipe, and there'll be the opportunity for cash. But it'll be the onus of Trish or myself has got to deposit the money.
It'll be acquitted, reconciled, or done.
Yeah. Okay, next slide. So there's additional clauses on dispute resolution and disciplinary action. So we've defined some dispute resolution clauses to make sure that there's a known fair mechanism for dealing with disputes, to resolve internal disputes. And then there's some clauses added for disciplinary action. Essentially, it defines when disciplinary action can be taken and how it's dealt with, and also advise the avenue of appeal, which is required by the Act. So essentially, the disciplinary action can be taken against a member by the committee if that member has failed to comply with the Constitution, so refuses to support the objects of the society, has engaged in conduct prejudicial to the society, so you get on the media and say the BSSA are a bunch of bastards, that's prejudicial to the society, and then or breaches the society code of conduct. So, all right, so those have been added. Next. And the final change is just in terms of, hopefully this never happens, but if we decide to wind up the society, then the changes there are that the membership gets to vote where the assets of any surplus assets after we've paid all of our debts, which other society they get to go to, subject to the fact that no member can benefit from the winding up of the society. So we can't, wind up the society and we'll take a share of the bank account. We have to actually move the bank account off to another organisation with similar objects. Those are the summary of the main changes to the Constitution, or the proposed Constitution. Moving on to the next slide. As I said, just recapping, we have proposed this new Constitution to comply with the Act, to hopefully represent the interests of the members, and move with the times to allow participation by technology. You'll get a copy of it tonight. You've got until the 14th of April to submit your feedback. And I'd like to thank Amanda, Bob, Grant as being my fellow subcommittee members, where we've been meeting probably 4 or 5 times in the last 3 or 4 months, going through member feedback, reviewing the existing Constitution, and we hope you like it.
Adrian, thank you for that. With the Constitution being mailed out, will this presentation go out with it so that those people that are not here tonight can see it?
Yes. Yes, so this presentation will go out with the email tonight. That's it. Thank you all for your attention. Bob's got something to say. Don't clap. Clap for Bob, not for me.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for that presentation. And might I say, perhaps light-heartedly, as Adrian said, we've certainly put in a lot of time. I was going to sort of add up the times that we met, multiply them by 2 and say that's the hours of the meeting. Some of our meetings were longer than 2 hours, but not too bad, in all fairness. But then to a 2-hour meeting, I've got to add an hour and a half for travelling time. And so I'm not grizzling, because I'm going to say Amanda has done more time than my travelling time attached to the meeting times. Amanda has supported this subcommittee very well because of her expertise and skills in the area. So thank you to Amanda.
Yes, I'd like to thank Amanda as well. She's done an incredible job. A lot of time. Anyway, I am the current dispute resolutions officer for the club. The new the new Act says that we don't need one, and embedded in the new Constitution with the disciplinary clauses, I am now superfluous to needs. So I would like to vote that I get sent out and shot and eliminated from that position. Okay, so, the pardon? Yes, so therefore I resign from that position. Oh, I can't do that until I get the new Constitution.
That's right. We've got to vote in favour of getting rid of you on the 14th of July.
Is that a special list?
Yes, special list. Okay, so don't come to me anymore for any disputes. Not that anybody ever has, but okay then. Thank you, Bob.
Okay. Thank you, Grant. Okay. From here on down to the rest of the meeting, we're ahead of time. Perhaps we'll mark that one up for Monica when she comes back, hey? I'm going to entertain you for a couple of minutes with a couple of announcements, and for the second announcement I'll call on our 2 VDOs to come up. But first and foremost, in this segment, yes, acceptance of our last minutes. They have been distributed by email. Does anybody wish to move that those? Thank you, Ollie. And have we anybody to second that motion? Thank you, Adrian. So the minutes have been moved and accepted, and while I'm here, Simon, do you want to give us an update on our finance? Okay. You all agree that those minutes be confirmed? Everybody say yes. Yes. Thank you. So those minutes. Yeah.
With the finance report, I haven't got the income and expenses because that wasn't finished off by Anna. But I have the opening and closing balance up there, and I have a list here of the major income and expenses. If someone wants to have a look at it afterwards, I'll just. But it's just not balancing because there were a few things that weren't sure on how to allocate. So I don't know if it's worth going through them all. The main expense that we had was the prepaying Member Jungle for 12 months. And I don't know if it's worth going through. Anyone, you can look at this afterwards for the main expenses.
What did we do? Well, we spent the best part of $3,000. Yeah. Okay. We are going to present a revised, not a revised, we're going to give a full presentation of our finances at the next meeting, next general meeting.
The goal is by next month we are doing a mid-term budget review. So have a look at everything. So that's what we're lining up for. So to compare the actuals to the budget and to show how it's tracking. So next month.
Good. I can assure you, I've already seen the prototype of it, and it is showing our income, our expenditure, whatever. And what our budgeted and the difference, and so it's all being carried through as a profit and loss that can be looked at any stage. The next announcement is Selgar Avenue is closed off South Road. You can no longer turn in off South Road and if you're coming from north to south, you cannot make a right-hand turn into Selgar Avenue. If you're coming south on South Road, you can't make a left-hand turn into Selgar Avenue. And it's a little bit confusing because the cyclone wire fence has just gone across the road. So if you're looking for a landmark, where do I turn right, where do I turn left? Let me tell you, you turn in on Tonsley Boulevard. Tonsley Boulevard is the intersection over the top of the subway. Now, as best as I can describe it, when you're going out of town, you go down the subway to get on the expressway, or you go left down South Road, or you can come left into Adelaide. But the expressway goes down the subway. And if it's a Friday night, don't have a couple of beers because the cops set themselves up with a breathalyser on the left-hand lane of the subway. Experience tells me I've had to blow in the bag a couple of times down the subway. But Tonsley Boulevard goes across the top of the subway. So that's where Tonsley Boulevard is. Don't go past Adrian Ford on the left-hand side. I'm trying to give you a few landmarks. And the overhead road that goes up, Shepherd's Hill Road. Don't go under there. You've gone too far south. And so if you're coming from south to north, again, you'll see the sign on your left, Tonsley Boulevard. The intersection is controlled by traffic lights. That's where you turn left or right, and you go down Tonsley Boulevard in a westerly direction, and you'll come to what's called Circuit Boulevard. Turn right, take the next turn on the right, which is not named yet, and that'll lead you around to Selgar Avenue. Look at that. Somebody's going to put it all up there for me. Where am I? Oh, there I am. Yep, so here quite simply, they blocked off up that end, and now you'll come down here, and you turn in, just give us a bit more height. Go up. There it is. Here's Tonsley Boulevard here. So you can come in to Adelaide, you can turn left. Coming out of Adelaide, you come down South Road, and then you make the right-hand turn at the lights into Tonsley Boulevard, and then you come through to Boulevard Circuit. They call them it Clay Valley Park, Tonsley, whatever. MAB Circuit is what this is called. But this is the one that goes around to Selgar Avenue. So far it hadn't been named. So that's Selgar Avenue, and we've got a field day coming up next Saturday the 15th, and the field day, for your information, because of a bit of feedback from the members, we've now shifted it to 10 o'clock in the morning, trying to beat the heat because of cancellation of field days on December and January, I think it was, where we had 2 cancellations, which becomes problematic with people paying their money in advance for a field day. So Saturday the 15th is scheduled to start at 10 a.m. The April one will go back to 1 p.m. And so it looks like we might have 10 a.m. starts in the summer, and then go back to April, May, 1 o'clock, July, August, September, 1 o'clock. But having looked at BOM, our Bureau of Meteorology, already, Friday is projected to be 35 degrees, 37. Saturday 38. No? By 10 a.m. in the morning, the guru has said it'll be 30 degrees. So, there you go. I will more than likely be down there feeding the bees. Purely and simply, a job's got to be done. So, and you can please yourselves. If you don't want to come because it's too hot and you don't want to put your overalls on, let common sense prevail. Now I'll call on Davidia and Josh. Not Jason. Yeah. We're going to talk about Friday of this week.
Okay. Hi. How are we all? Hands up who was here last month. Brilliant. Fantastic. Okay, so following on from last month, we really talked an introduction to Varroa, a bit of a recap for those that have been to a national workshop, and then we also started discussing a little bit about what we've been up to as Varroa development officers, and also started talking about integrated pest management and some treatments, some new treatments. So this Friday we've put together a special edition building on from that workshop. So it's a great opportunity to come along for those that have seen that last month's workshop or have been to a national workshop. And basically it's going to be Friday from 1:30 p.m. until 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon. This will be held at Perza in the city on Weymouth Street. What I'm going to do is pass over to Davide, and he's going to give you a little bit of an overview of what we're going to be doing during this workshop.
I have no idea how to say anything tonight. So hello everyone, no, jokes aside. So this Friday we will focus more on the integrated pest management side of things. So, and we will, with an emphasis on the mechanical and chemical controls. And we will start playing with treatment plans. So start to think about what you have to do in terms to develop your own treatment plan. There are so many, and you will realize there are so many factors that they are so, that influence how you treat your hives and what chemicals you use. And there is going to be a bit of focus on the permits and what you can and what you can't do with each chemical, being organic or synthetic. So for these workshops, it's important to have a bare minimum of basic knowledge about Varroa. We won't repeat the whole spiel about what Varroa is and the life cycle and the damages and the symptoms that it has on a hive. So we might touch bases here and there, but it's going to be more focused on the IPM side of things and the treatment plan. So if you're planning to come, please revise a bit of the old or the basic workshops and all the materials that you can find on varroa.org.au. Otherwise, if you need some guidance, just let us know. I will leave some cards behind, and we'll guide you towards what you need to know before you come to these meetings. It will be on level 20 on the big conference room, and we're happy to pass on details. And there will be a new URL where you can register. And at the moment it's kept 20 people. We already have 2 people subscribed, so 18 spots left. Who's interested? Can I have a show of hands of who's thinking? 4, 5? Oh, come on guys, we're doing it just for you. 6, travel, nice. Let's get to 10, let's give me 9, 10, sign. You booked it? There you go.
I booked out.
Booked out? That's okay. Well, nobody's perfect. That's it. That's okay. That's okay. No, 100%. We'll try to do more of these, and there will be updates as things progress, as we have updates on the state of spread of Varroa. Are you guys aware that is now in Queensland? Yeah. So, from 3 kilometers to the border to 150 kilometers inside, that's a big jump. And we have it in Hatta and Mildura, so it's not far. So we need to be prepared. So take advantage of all these workshops because they're very valuable, because when it arrives, you at least will have some tools to manage it.
Excellent. So, in the break in a minute for supper, basically we've got our phones, we've got our registration portals open. So if you're interested in coming, please come and see us, and we can send you the text message with the link that then you simply click and then just register your name on that event. It's important for us to know. Like we said, capped at small numbers. We are in Perza head office. We've taken over the boardroom for the day. So we basically want to make sure we fill it. And we also want to make sure we know how many people are coming up, and then we'll talk about how you get in and so forth. But it's pretty straightforward, and we look forward to seeing as many of you there as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Josh has got a different time schedule to me. He's going to have a break in a minute. I'm going to let you have a break in 35 minutes. I'm going to call on the librarian, Sue, and welcome back to Sue and David. They haven't been with us for a couple of meetings.
Had a few trips.
Hello, I'm sorry I haven't been here, and Aphrodite's been doing a wonderful job, and the team have been running the library. And we've got 2 new books for you this month, and they are both really around this getting your head around Varroa and managing your hives. But what these 2 books are, they're from one of them's one's English, but they're both sort of from the Northern Hemisphere. But we're getting more of these books now who have been managing Varroa for a long time. So they've got their heads around integrated pest management. They understand about, we would call them hygienic bees, or the bees that are Varroa resistant for various genetic traits. And so we're getting some really useful books. So while they're not Australian, and I do try and get a lot of Australian stuff because the seasons are very different in the Northern Territory, we can really benefit from reading about how beekeepers are dealing with the Varroa. And this one was recommended by a member, and it's the evolution, ecology and behaviour of honeybees, but it's really with a view to understanding the background of bees and their life cycles, the way the traits are inherited, but it's a bridge between I think bees are one of the most widely studied creatures on Earth. There's more bee research done, but these are trying to bridge between the general public, well, beekeepers particularly, or people interested in bees, with just really manageable chapters with really good references at the end. And I think you've read this one, have you, Bob? Did you find that one useful? And when I was looking up this one, I saw the cover of this one, and this is the Northern Bee Books. And this is Darwin done as an illustration with bees. I just fell in love with this book from the picture on the cover. But this one is by a group of beekeepers in England whose apparently their territory just touches on where Darwin was looking at bees, but they have been doing practical beekeeper observations of managing Varroa and identifying traits in their bees that are useful in being Varroa resistant. So this one's really a bridge between the beekeeper and the researchers from the beekeeper's point of view. And if you've read this one as well, Bob's bookmark was in there, so I suspected that he'd had in there. So and again, did you think that this was a good approach? So I can recommend both of those. They're both last year, and one of the reviewers said 26 short chapters. This is honeybees with a recommended reading list, references, the end of which increases the value. So whilst it's a bit of a sort of easily digestible one, there's more that you can read about it. And some of his, particularly the books on Seeley, the honeybee democracy, and some of our other more detailed books are on the reference lists. So I can recommend those to anyone.
Thank you, Sue. And I can certainly say an endorsement for those two books. I've got to go to the post office tomorrow and pick up my 2 copies. I've ordered 3 books myself because I thought, shall I photocopy? No, I'm not going to photocopy. I'm just going to buy the bloody book. I need it. I want it.
Sorry, there's someone with a question.
Yes, me. Sorry.
Yes?
I was just wondering what the title and authors of those 2 books
Oh,
are.
sorry.
Um,
This one's Honeybees, a natural and less natural history by Jacques Van Elken, and this one's by
Riley.
Steve Riley. He's the current chair and education officer in Westerham Beekeepers Club. So,
So the only thing I want to say in support of those books, read them. They are very, very enlightening and encouraging. Particularly the book with Charles Darwin on the front there about Varroa. It's a Western Hampshire Bee Society have documented their work for the last 6 or 7 years, and they have not treated for Varroa mite. But remember, Varroa mite came into the UK something like 35, 36 years ago. So they had the initial bushfire with Varroa. We're going to have the same effect here. We're going to have the initial bushfire. You're not going to be able to pick up that book and say, that's going to give me the treatment for Varroa mite when it first gets here. I encourage you to read it. I can only just say, Apis mellifera has got an inherent instinct to protect itself. It's been on this mortal coil longer than we have, and we're its worst enemy. And for the last 150 years or 200 years, all the research that's been done on bees has been done on man-made hives. And now they're starting to look at doing a little bit of research into swarms and natural colonies, and that is enlightening. So if you do read these books, don't fly off at a tangent and think you're going to put rhubarb under the lid and get a treatment of oxalic acid from the rhubarb, or boil up rhubarb leaves in a saucepan and pour it all over your bees. No, they've got to get over the bushfire of the incursion of Varroa mite first. Adrian, I'm going to call upon you to come up and sell the attributes of your Western group, and then I might come up and stand alongside of you and ask the general audience, have you got any questions? Did you come along with a question that you wanted answered tonight? So I'll give Adrian 10 minutes and then we'll share the last.
If you hold on to this one.
Oh, no, that's just for the live stream. So that's
Okay. Hi all. I'm an introvert. I've just spent doing an hour on the beginners beekeeping, running John Silverblade's session, and then I stood up here and presented on the Constitution. Now I'm presenting again, so I'm going to be absolutely shattered by the end of this evening. Having said that, a number of years ago, Bob Beer had a great idea of getting mentoring groups running in various places around Adelaide. Certainly when I was a committee member going back a number of years, the feedback from the membership was they wanted hands-on, they wanted to do, meet with other beekeepers, do stuff. The field days are very popular. So on the basis of that, I got off my backside and started what I called the Western Suburbs Mentoring Group. That was the beginning of about 23. And because quite a number of people that turn up are actually from the eastern suburbs, I called it the Western Suburbs Plus. So this is a couple of slides just about what the group does, a couple of photos of what we've done. Can I ask, before I go on to that, who would like to meet on a monthly basis, not here, but actually other beekeepers local in their area? Put your hand up if you're interested. Okay, all right. Okay, who'd be prepared to, once in a while host at their apiary? Keep your hand up. Yeah, okay. And then I'm not going to embarrass anyone, but I would have asked the third question, who's prepared to actually go and get a bunch of names and phone numbers and organise the first 1 or 2 sessions? But I'll leave that question with you, because it takes a couple of hours, but I reckon it's really worth it. So next slide. So credit to Bob, it was his idea. The Western Suburbs Plus started late 23. We meet, once every 1 or 2 months for 2 to 3 hours, usually on a Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We go around to different people's apiaries and we have a look at their bees. We do stuff, seasonal stuff. A couple of people also started really getting into swarm collecting. So I said, come along, okay. Now you've seen me do it once, twice, off you go. And so they really got into swarm collecting. And then we typically do some bee stuff and then have some afternoon tea so people can bring a plate to share, have tea, coffee, wine, maybe 1 or 2 bottles of wine. And as I said, it's plus because half the people are from the eastern suburbs. And it's 50% beekeeping, 50% social. That's it. It's not just come along and do beekeeping stuff. Next slide, please. So why do we have these groups? Well, people want to network, just want to meet other beekeepers, talk about, hey, what's happening with your hive, what's happening with my hive. We used to, these meetings, I think a couple of times, we had broke up into north, south, east, west, and people got to meet and mingle, and that was, I think that's really good. Also learn, so you get a lot of new beekeepers coming along, the first hive, they grab a swarm from one of the other people, and that becomes their first hive. And we chat and eat and drink, basically. That's what we do. And that slide in the bottom, the picture in the bottom left-hand corner, that was actually at my son's place. He's got some hives in the back of his yard. So yeah, we met there and we had a look at and did an inspection on his hive. Next slide. If anyone's got any questions, just interrupt. Yeah, stick your hand up. So these other things we did. We did a flow hive harvest at John's place. He's up at Largs Bay, so we just did a few, flow hive harvest. Next slide. Inspected. Did a regular inspection. Had a look at it. Went inside his brood box. Next slide. Did a varroa check. So we did a sugar shake test. Grabbed a bunch of bees. That contraption on the right-hand side is a crude bee separator, because it's got a piece of plastic queen excluder in there, and you just grab a whole bunch of bees, and then at the bottom, and then the bees crawl up through, attracted to the light. But because there's queen excluder, the ones at the top, there's no queen there. That's the theory. Next slide. Do harvest inspection. So there's on the that handsome gentleman in the top left-hand corner is me taking some honey from my flow hive, from my top bar hive. So I don't know if you've ever seen the top bar hive. So there's a top bar hive, and on the right-hand side that's Madava. We did at the end of last year. We met at his place. Next slide. And I did mention the non-beekeeping activities. So that's us having a drink and sharing some cake and nibbles and stuff like that to my son's place, and then at Madava's place in Tusmore, and us without our bee suits on. Next slide. Another thing, I've reached out to Josh, and hopefully sometime we'll organise a session for the Varroa development officers to come to the group and do some Varroa related stuff. And these are the typical things we do: inspections, Varroa checks, harvesting. I do equipment show and tell. Not everyone's got extractors, not everyone's got a flow hive, not everyone's got a telescoping swarm collector that you can grab a swarm from a tree that's really, really tall. And networking, getting your first bees, advice, split swarms, etc. And BSSA supports the activity. Quick Draw Amanda's ready with the EpiPen should there ever be an event. Next slide. So I know, Bob, there's a group running in the south. These slides are from the west, from the western group. If I know from, again, when I was on the committee, that there was some demand in the eastern suburbs. So if you want, if folks in the east get together, organise your first couple of meetings, volunteer, share your emails, phone numbers. Catering's up to you, but my suggestion is just bring a plate to share. Scones, cake, nibbles and so on. Importantly, the BSSA's have got a lot of experienced beekeepers that can provide advice. So, turn up, new beekeepers can ask questions, new beekeepers can get their first set of bees. new beekeepers can talk about things that are very new to them, that are quite perhaps not as new to experienced beekeepers. And then finally, I'm just going to try to, when Varroa hits, we are all new beekeepers because we're all going to be learning about how to manage Varroa. So any networking, any people to call up and say, hey, my hive was really healthy a month ago and now it's almost dead. We're all going to be new beekeepers from that point when Varroa hits. And so having somebody in your local area who can say, well, how's your hive going? Yeah, I only found 3 mites, I'm good. Well, maybe not. And you may find yourself in a situation where you lose hives and need to rebuild. And yes, you can tap new commercial beekeepers and buy another nuke and so on. Or maybe there's somebody in your group that, they'll give you a split this time because you might give them a split 6 months later when they go through it. So yeah, so that networking I think is going to be really important when Varroa hits. I think, is that my last slide? Oh, yeah. So that first bullet point is blank, which says you should always review your presentation before sending it off. If you're interested in the Western Suburbs Plus, just get in contact with our office and bring your own bee suit and gloves and wine. Plate to share. Cheers, that's all. Any questions?
I see this subject of Varroa as it's not an if but a when, and I just wonder, it seems rampant in New South Wales and Queensland. I personally have 10 years experience with Varroa in Canada, and I just wonder what actions the authorities in South Australia are doing to prevent Varroa coming across the border, and what plan of action there is time-wise. Are we expecting them next week or 10 years from now?
Oh, don't they?
Yes.
That's exactly what I was about to say, Bob. So now prevention it's not viable anymore. So we are just preparing. It's a transition to management. So what we are doing at the moment, from an educational perspective, as a Varroa development officer, it's all about education. We have the privilege to have a little bit of lead time before Varroa comes. We haven't found Varroa in South Australia, so we haven't detected. Doesn't mean that we don't have it. So that's why we need your collaboration. We need you to do your monitoring, and if you find something suspicious, then you let us know so we can do something about it. That something means that we can, there is a whole procedure about making treatments available for South Australia. We do have some treatments in Murray Bridge that we can bring to do some surveillance for the first 72 hours. So there is help. We just need to collaborate all together. Now, from a policy perspective, there are, the guys from compliance, they have all series of procedures for limiting I don't want to say too much about that because it's not my area of expertise, but there are procedures to prevent the spread of Varroa in South Australia as much as possible whilst keeping in mind business continuity. But that's a whole questions for the compliance team and the upper units. From our end, I cannot give you a timeline when Varroa is coming. So let's assume that it is very, very close, that it's arriving tomorrow, and let's prepare as soon as possible, because at the end of the day, it's coming, and we can't prevent it anymore. Are there any questions, more questions, more specific to dates and versions? It's in Hatta at the moment, and we've had cases in, of course, in North Europe. It's very close. No? Yes?
The Varroa is more active in the winter or summer, or doesn't matter for?
So Varroa is connected to brood and the activity. So when you have like spring and summer, when you have more brood, you have more Varroa. It's simple as that. So it is directly proportionally to the number of brood present. So again, spring, summer, more bees, more Varroa. When you have like natural brood breaks, so winter or in extreme heat in summer, you have kind of a stop. So without brood, Varroa cannot reproduce. You interrupt the Varroa life cycle. But that said, we don't really get brood breaks in South Australia, definitely not in Australia. Maybe in Tasmania. What do you think, Bob?
I think we're going to force ourselves to have brood breaks. Yes. No, naturally we don't have brood breaks, and least of all down here on the plains. People who live on the plains, they get brood in their hive 12 months of the year. Some places up in the country might get, but generally there's brood in every brood box 12 months of the year. Smaller amounts, but you know. Okay, thank you, Davide. Any other questions? Any burning questions that you've had under your belt for 3 months and you still want to ask? Because soon I'm going to ask Sandra to come up and bring the raffle prizes and the raffle tickets. We draw the raffle. Yes, and there's a question here too. Yes, John.
This is my first takeoff of cat fly hive.
Yep.
It's moving like this. It's cat height.
Yes.
So I'm not sure what the nurture content is. It's moving very quickly. I'm not sure what to take. Does anyone else have fly? Yes. Hive? Yes. It's not like that to me, but it's moving very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Pardon? Yeah. Yeah. Tractometer. Is that right? Oh. Yes. Yeah. The question is, so what John's saying is, why is the viscosity of this honey so runny? My comment is, perhaps it's just the floral source that his bees have been working. He's damn lucky that his bees have been working any floral source at the moment.
It's been a tough year. I've lost queens this year.
Yes.
And I had a huge crop harvest in the year, and they put honey on all the time. But I've been losing queens.
Yes.
Unusual bee behaviour I've noticed in the last few weeks. One particular bee, I was observing the bees coming and going, all right, and I'm an absolute newbie. One bee in particular appeared to be grooming bees around it, like you would see with other critters. And I had a ordinary book, and the book didn't say anything about it. And I'd like to know, do they groom each other or not?
Look after it, nurture it. That queen, we want grooming traits. We want to encourage queens that are going to breed bees with grooming traits so that the bees do groom like monkeys, almost take the salt off their brother and sister in the zoo. And they stand there, gill it, you know, very intimate. And so grooming is not common, but it's good to hear that it is, you've observed it. Checking their bona fide entrance back into the hive. Pardon?
Just dust around our place.
Yeah. Checking to see if they got a good six-pack. You know, are you coming? Did you leave this hive? Are you coming back to this hive with a belly full of honey? Yeah. So they do really. Before they let them in the front door, they make sure they're bona fide entrance. Yeah.
Second question. Another curious bee, this was at one of my water sources, which really great standing. This bee was grabbing one of the bees by the leg and pulling them away from the water. And I watched him, he did it, sorry, she.
You think everything's all calm and sweet in the beehive. There is what we call anarchy in the beehive. And so the worst situation that you will ever see in your beekeeping experience is a frenzy of robbing. Robbing is the worst thing that I have ever seen, for a frenzy of bees where they get so vicious with one another and they bite one another to death, you know. Pardon? No, they bite. They bite. Yeah. Ollie.
You mentioned in the intermediate class about feeding your bees. Could you run through what you're doing with your pollen and sugar water?
Yeah. I am feeding my bees, and I'm feeding them 2 kilograms of sugar to a litre of water, and to that mixture I'm adding 2.5 mils of Hive Alive per litre. So when you mix 10 kilograms of sugar with 5 kilograms of water, or thereabouts, you get a syrup of about 9 litres, I think it makes, approximately. So I put in the best part of 22, 23 mils of Hive Alive into that syrup solution as nutriment over and above the carbohydrates of the sugar. And I'm also feeding them a pollen supplement which is called Ultra B. And I feed the sugar syrup in plastic bags under the lid, because the lids are 45 millimetre high. I get something like 800, 900 mil of syrup in a freezer bag, which is the medium-sized freezer bag. And I use freezer bags because they're a much thinner plastic, and I get 900 mil, nearly a litre in there, and then I tie a knot in the plastic bag, pop them in the bucket, and I go out to the hives. I lift the lid, and on top of the hive mat I'll put the bag, I'll take away the empty bag that's there, and I'll put the full bag on top, and there'll be a little aluminium pie dish there, alfoil pie dish, which I put the powder, the Ultra B into, and so I top that up as well while I've got the lid open. My bees have stopped taking the Ultra B, so they don't need any more pollen, but they're certainly taking the syrup. Yes. How much pollen? It doesn't hurt to feed a pollen supplement, even though they've got pollen in their hive. If they're bringing it in, there's less need for it. There's less need for it. I have found the situation where they'll take this pollen supplement before going back to eating the pollen that they've stored in their own hive, because they perhaps find it easier to get to, I don't know. But they'll stop taking it when they don't want any more. And so they've eased off on the pollen supplement, but they're still taking the sugar syrup. Yeah.
Where do you get your pollen supplement?
I bought it from Adelaide Beekeeping Supply in a 20 kilogram bag. Yes. Okay. Yes, Trevor? In short supply at the moment. So if you want it, you better see Bob Beer and he'll sell you a kilogram in a tub. Done. All right. Easy done. So that's the way. Now let's draw the raffle. Where did you go? Come on, back here. I've got a new recruit to draw the raffle tonight. I'll hold the tin and you can get all the friends. There you go.
It's orange ticket, U41, Brenton B.
I'll take another ticket. I'll do it well, Brenton. L22. Take a price. Beautiful. V91. Pink. Pink. Chris with the D. Chris Dunning. V for victory. L25. L for leather. L25, another Brenton B. Here, draw another one. Go down the bottom of the heap. Here's another V, V83, Sue, spec. We've got a hive tool. What do you do? Give me two. Q38. Q, is it Q38? It looks like platinum. There we go. Draw another one. Wet your finger. Yeah, beautiful. Look at that. Another V for victory. No, it's not. U for umbrella. 43. Help yourself to a prize. You don't have a selection. You're easy, sir. Okay. Thank you, folks. Well, there you go. I'll bet it's another 10 years before you see me back up here again. Okay, we've got a generous offer here. There's a member who's saying, I've got some ideal frames down the back of the room. If anybody's using ideal frames and wants them, stand up. Come and see this gentleman. There you go. Thank you, folks. Have a cup of coffee before you go home, because I'm going to.